Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Showing Up to Your Life podcast and the YouTube channel. My name is Art Burns, and I'm just so absolutely excited to be here with you today. I'm grateful. I am really grateful for the opportunity to get to talk to this video camera every day and share these thoughts and these practices and the philosophies. And I mean that from my heart. That is really the most sincere thing that I could say. I truly love doing this each day, and I love most of all knowing that people are benefiting from these videos, right? When I get emails from people telling me how much the videos help, or if I get questions about certain practices or ideas that we talk about here, I mean, nothing makes me happier, right? Because then I know that that people are getting something out of it, and they're really paying attention to it, and that's going to come up again, paying attention, by the way, and just knowing that the value that people are gaining from this, because I know how absolutely invaluable these practices and these philosophies are, okay? 10 years ago, I was a completely different person. There's no overstatement when I say that these practices and the philosophies that I talk to you every single day here about literally saved my life. There's no overstatement to that at all. Okay, it saved my marriage. It saved my physical health. It saved my emotional health. It's made me a father that I want to be. Right, like I was on the way to be I was on the way to repeat some really vicious generational cycles that were going to create a lot of emotional unwellness and physical unwellness in my children. It was just gonna roll over, right? But 10 years ago, you would not have noticed me. Right? You absolutely would not have, or not recognize me. You would have noticed me because I was 100 pounds heavier than I am now. So I was hard to miss, but you would never have recognized me, okay? Yeah, 100 pounds heavier. Really, I mean, a high functioning alcoholic, but an alcoholic nonetheless, right? Really, I mean, stress was like, I mean, I emanated stress, right? And I had this sense back then that life was to be survived, right? That's literally what my moment-to-moment experience was all about, right? It was all about just getting through the day, getting through the week, getting through the month, getting through the holidays, getting through whatever, right? Just get through it. That's how I lived. I had no sense of moment-to-moment awareness, and so therefore I had no sense of moment-to-moment enjoyment. And what that means is that I was operating completely on automatic. Right? I tell a lot of people, as a lot of people really, perk up. This really catches attention when I tell people that with the stress I used to live with, I never felt like there was enough time for anything. I always felt like I was just way behind schedule. I couldn't catch up. There was no hope, and it was the most wrenching thing that I would deal with. And when I tell people that, they're like, whoa, tell me more, because that's me, right? And of course, this also included a lot of insomnia, and I hate to even like do the math of how much all this stuff cost me in terms of my my career and careers, I should say, and how many when I was at one point I was in a sales position, how many sales were lost because of this stress that I was dealing with, or because of being hungover in the morning from being out drinking all night to cope with the stress in a really poor and maladaptive way, right? And so all of this, and the one thing that changed it all, right? The one thing, that's it, is mindfulness. Like that literally is the only thing, right? Which is essentially, right, the ability to know where my attention was in any given moment, and to be able to control where my attention was at any given moment. That's what was missing for me specifically, right? Now, of course, a lot of other issues, a lot of other benefits of mindfulness also play in, especially the compassion. I used to feel like, again, when you're in survival mode, a lot of times you feel like, okay, everybody's out to get me. Everybody's out to screw me over somehow. And so I have to, fight or, kill or be killed, I guess, is the way you might think about it, right? Of course, there's no way to live. And of course, it's not true, right? Not everybody is out to get you. I am definitely not out to get you, right? And there are so many people who are like me that do things every single day for no necessary reward. Yes, I hope that I get to, get hired by people to work one-on-one on a 12-week program that I do that really transforms life. And that alone, even though, yes, I get my financial, exchange from that, I get to pay my bills and support my children and stuff. But the value of watching people transform their lives like I transformed my life about 10 years ago, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's amazing. But anyway, yes, I hope that happens, but that doesn't mean that I don't do these videos if that doesn't happen, right? I am giving this as a gift. I am putting this out here every day, and I'm not the only person doing this. So when you start thinking, as I used to think, that the whole world is just out for their own and they're out to get, they're going to screw you any chance they can, and everybody wants to, fight for themselves and live and let die kind of thing, dog eat dog and all that. It's not true. It's just not true, folks. It really isn't. And so, anyway, that's not the point of this video. But the point is that we live in a world that is, unfortunately, where a lot of people are in this survival mode, right? And again, a lot of this comes down to the idea of attention. Right? Attention/awareness. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, specifically the attention part, right? So, there was a study done that I've mentioned here a couple of times. Richard Davidson, Richie to people, who I think of, I have a fantasy friendship with this guy, but anyway, he calls himself Richie on stage and stuff, so I'll call him Richie. So Richie Davidson talks about a study that was done, right, where they took thousands of people, right, using smartphone technology, right, and throughout the day, at random times during the day, they would send a text out to the thousands of participants in this study that was going on, right, and the first text was what are you doing right now, right? And they had like a multiple choice kind of thing, right? Working, I'm doing that, I'm hanging out with friends, I'm doing this, whatever. And so you pick that, you send it, and then another text comes in and says, well, where's your attention right now? Right? Are you paying attention to what you're doing right now? Or are you, are you watching a movie and on your phone at the same time? Are you washing dishes and thinking about a meeting that you have tomorrow? Where's your attention, right? And then the last question was, how happy do you feel right now? Right? And it was very, very strong correlation. And Richie Davidson is just one of many, many, many researchers and scientists and doctors who have come to this same, unambiguous conclusion, right? Is that when we are not paying attention to what it is we're doing, right, we are not happy. Okay, the way Richie says is a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. I believe he quotes that from somebody else who said it, so let me just be fair on that one, but I don't remember who it was. But a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. Right, Dan Siegel, Dr. Dan Siegel, who is someone else who I've worked with. One of the very first seminars I attended when I was getting into this, coaching mindfulness. He said that he called upon many other research studies that were done as well, and said path analysis is unambiguous about this. It's really, really clear that the people are not present because they're happy, but people are happy because they are present, okay? Daniel Goleman will say this, who's the author of Emotional Intelligence. There's so many people who all say some form of this statement, right? Is that the command of our attention, the ability to hold our attention, is one of the most beneficial things that can happen to our own well-being, right? And so I was thinking about this last night, attention, right? And the reason why I was thinking about it, I'm trying to remember what it is that I was watching, but I was watching something about a news person, Matt Taibbi, who's a longtime journalist, wrote for the Rolling Stone. I think he still writes for Rolling Stone for a long time. Like he's like the, almost like the modern day Hunter Thompson, like that's like he filled his role at Rolling Stone. I mean, he doesn't have the same lifestyle as Hunter Thompson, but he has the same sort of wherewithal about a lot of things. He's really interesting. And so anyway, what he talked about was in the news nowadays, right? That there is no there's no longer the interest of the news to give you a balanced view of what's going on, right? They don't just tell you what's happening. What news programs are doing now is telling you what you want to see or telling you what you want to hear because they want to hold your attention, right? And I started thinking about that. And I was like, wow, same thing as social media, right? Like on Facebook, right? What they want you to do is they want you to interact with others, right? And there's a reason for that, right? Because the more you're interacting with others, the longer you're staying on the platform and the more your attention is available to advertisers, right? No different from TV and Nielsen ratings from days of old. I mean, I'm dating myself here, right? You know, so attention, right? Our attention is so valuable to others, right? And you can even look at like the military, right? Like you stand at attention, right? Like when the general or superior officer of some sort walks into the area, right? The person in charge says 10 hut, right? Like pay attention, stand in attention. You give your attention to this superior person here, right? And even the very term pay attention, right? Like you're paying with your attention. There's a currency there. There's a value to your attention. And I don't think any of these things are mistakes. I don't think it's any accidents that's true. That the way we talk about our attention, like paying attention, right, is something that has a value, an intrinsic value. And the fact that intrinsic value has been, I don't want to use the word exploit, but it has been sort of harvested over generations, right? Again, it goes back to the days of radio, right? Like the more they can keep your ears listening to that radio, the more you're going to hear the people who they pay for who pay them for advertising space, right? Same thing with the Super Bowl, right? I mean, the Super Bowl has I don't know how many millions of people watch the Super Bowl every year, but the reason why the ads are so expensive, ad space on the Super Bowl costs millions of dollars, like maybe tens, maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars these days, right? For like 30 seconds, right? Like millions and millions of dollars for 30 seconds. Why? Because they know that they have the attention of hundreds of millions of people out there, right? There's hundreds of millions of eyeballs and eardrums that are focused on your message at that given moment. So therefore, it is worth millions of dollars. Right? I don't think that's a mistake, right? So it started to occur to me as I was thinking this through last night, and I was like, wow, I got to do a video about this, because with this being so valuable, right? And now, of course, we could turn this around too, like if we talk about being a parent, right? And again, this is something that is also extremely, unambiguous and very, very well founded with many, many pediatricians, child psychologists, adult psychologists, everyone, right? That says that one of the greatest gifts that we can give, whether it's children or other people, the greatest gift we can give to people is our presence. But what does that mean? That means giving them our attention, right? Like literally, like if you do nothing else, right? Yes, the kids' education, their socializing, their physical health, of course, all that's very important, right? But the one thing that you as a parent are able to do, and this is something that Dr. Dan Siegel talks about, and he's written many books about parenting, right? And one of the things that he says in the last book that he wrote with Tina Payne Bryson, who also helped him write they co-wrote The Whole Brain Child and No Drama Discipline. The last one that they wrote was called something like the Power of Presence, right? Which is to say, again, Dan says this, Dr. Siegel says this, that if you did nothing else as a parent, except to pay attention to your children, to be there with them, and to be present with them, that's the biggest, that's the highest influence that you can have for them going to a good college and being happy and being successful and all that, right? And then again, now that's not just parents though, right? As a manager, right? Like how many, when you talk about soft skills in the corporate environment, right? Now I've worked with a lot of people in corporate settings and specifically worked on soft skills. Like that's what people come to me for, right? I just did a series of talks on soft skills, right? Soft skills are emotional intelligence, empathy, active listening, right? And so what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is paying attention to your emotions and the emotions of someone else, and using that information to guide the decision making and the actions for everyone's mutual benefit, right? And so if you're in a work situation, right, if you're a manager, right, the difference between an effective and an effective manager that people want to work for, and the kind of manager who is just doing horrible damage to an organization, is how much they pay attention to their reports, right? How are you evaluated on any job that you're doing? By how much you're paying attention, ultimately, right? I mean, that's what it is, right? And so when we think of something that is so valuable, right? So valuable, why wouldn't we want to invest 10 minutes a day to learn how to command that attention, to gain a control over it? I mean, honestly, folks, this is something that is pretty much priceless at this point, right? If you think about it, everything that I've just mentioned, right? Everything from the news to social media to the Super Bowl to your job, evaluation and effectiveness, to your parenting. I mean, as a parent, it all hinges on how your kids grow up. I mean, that's why we become parents, right? And so the more attention you give to your children, the better their experience is going to be. The more likely they are to be happy and successful as adults, which is again the only thing that we're worried about as parents, right? Like that's what it is. Right? And how many times do you feel like when somebody actively listens to you, right? When you really feel heard, and for some of you, you might not have ever heard this, you might have ever felt this before, unfortunately. If you ever talk to me, you will feel it, because I practice active listening. I practice paying attention to the person to whom I'm speaking and to whom I'm listening. Right? And so anytime any of you out there have felt that somebody really heard you, right? Like they really got you, how did that feel to you? Right? Was that not the best feeling that you ever had? Right? Well, that's why mindfulness feels so good, because what you're doing is you're paying attention to your moment to moment experience. Right? You're attending, and that's why I actually don't like to use the word pay attention, especially with kids, right? And this is something Dr. Gabor Mate talks about this in a couple of his books. And so for all of you folks out there who have young kids, I want to invite you to challenge yourself not to use the word pay attention, because what that means to a young child is that, okay, I owe you something. Like I'm in debt to you somehow, right? And that it's a very subtle thing, but it really gets into that, it gets into that personality, and is something that is legitimate. So instead of saying pay attention, you could say attend to this, right? Which is what we're doing when we're practicing mindfulness. What we are doing is we're attending to each moment and each experience as it's unfolding. And we're doing so without judgment, and that's the easy part. A lot of people have the hard time with the judgment, but actually, in the end, that's the easy part. The harder part is to be attentive, right? And again, for lack of a better term, to pay attention to everything that's going on, because what happens is, right, and of course this is the dark side of all that other stuff I talked about, right? The advertising and the Super Bowls and all that stuff, the social media and stuff, right? What society is trying to do is trying to co-opt our attention, right? And they're trying to, and advertising, I mean, I worked in advertising for 20 years, and this is what advertisers are trying to do. They're trying to get you to think of a future outcome without this product, without this thing, without whatever it is that I'm trying to sell you. Picture your life with it in the future, or picture your life without it in the future. And so that's very much, they're trying to get you to pay attention not to what's happening right now, right? They want you to pay attention to what's happening in this, in Facebook or in the advertisement, whatever it is, right? And so the idea then, right, is is how valuable is your attention? And if you only knew I'm sorry, I get back to what I was saying, is that, that's why it's such a challenge for people, because we have, since a very, very young age, right? Like, like advertisements to kids, right? Like that's something that's real, right? That's something that's been real for 50 years now, right? And now, it was regulated to a certain extent with television networks, but now on YouTube, YouTube for kids and stuff, that's not very well regulated at all. So your children are being exposed to advertisements, right? They're being exposed to different, pop-up ads online. They're being exposed to, in-app advertising on their phones and devices, right? It's ubiquitous. It's pervasive in our society, right? And so from a very early age, we're being trained, because remember, something I always talk about, right, is that we are practicing one way or the other, right? Always. Whether it's an intentional and purposeful practice, or it's an unwitting practice and an unconscious practice, we are practicing something. So what that means is that as we grow up, with advertising, with Facebook and social media, with, devices like smartphones and tablets, and with computers, right? As we're doing that, we are practicing the division of our attention, right? We're practicing something that once I heard somebody call attention slavery. That's really what it is. They're trying to capture your attention, right? All these different, platforms and advertising and marketing and all that stuff, right? And so we're practicing that all our lives. We're practicing this sort of, like letting our attention be called. We're not in control of it. Right? And so that's why the hard thing to do, and I hate to say, I hesitate to say hard, because it's really not that hard. All it does is it takes some commitment to doing it, right? But a lot of people think the hard part's going to be that non-judging aspect of paying attention to what's happening as it's happening without judgments, right? But no, the thing that most people, once they get over the hurdle and practice a little bit of learning how to focus that attention, right? And again, as I said in the beginning, this requires us to know where our attention is at any given moment, right? Before we can focus it, we need to know when it's not focused, right? And that's why, once people get over that, then everything else is gravy. It's easy. It's riding a bike downhill at that point, right? The compassion, the non-judging, the forgiveness, all of that stuff becomes so much easier, because what we've done is we've quieted that chatter in our mind that is calling that attention from all different directions, right? We've allowed ourselves to simplify things and to see things clearly, right? Because all that chatter and all that pulling your attention in 10 different directions all at once, it creates like a very, very thick fog in our mind, right? Like I used the example of the snow globe, right? When you shake up a snow globe, you can't see what's inside of it because all those flakes, right? But when you take that snow globe and you simply put it down on a table and you let it sit, what happens? All those flakes just come right down to the bottom, and now you can see it. Now you can pay attention to it, right? And so that's why, as we practice mindfulness, what we're doing, whether it's formal meditation or informal meditation, what we're doing is we're devoting our attention to something, right? We're attending to, in a formal meditation, it would be attending to our breath. In an informal meditation, it would be attending to whatever it is that we're doing at that given moment. Driving, washing dishes, cooking, cleaning, showering, brushing teeth, whatever it is, right? Putting on makeup, whatever, right? When we're attending to that thing. Now, the work of meditation, formal or informal, is when you're doing that and you realize that your attention is no longer devoted to this thing that you're doing, right? Whether it's the breath or the activity that you're doing, you realize your attention is no longer there. What you do is you acknowledge it and you bring your attention back. Every single time you do that, it's like doing a curl at the gym, right? If I put 20 pounds in my hand and I do this 20 times, this muscle gets stronger. If my attention wanders off 20 times and 20 times I bring it back, my attention becomes stronger. Not only the understanding of where my attention might be in any given moment, but again, the power to hold it. Right? It actually involves a part of your brain called the insula, right, which is responsible for knowing where your attention is, right? You're literally making that part of your brain stronger by doing these practices, and all it is strengthening your attention, right? Which is such a valuable thing. So I mean, we're talking about like 10 minutes a day. Right? And if the Super Bowl is willing to pay millions of dollars for your attention, well, then how can a 10-minute investment be anything except a steal? Like the kind of deal where it's like, like the old commercial where you see the lady running out of, I think it's IKEA, like she's running out, the stuff was so cheap, she's yelling at her husband, start the car, we gotta get out of here. Because we just stole something, right? It's like, of course you're not stealing it, but that's how silly this investment is. Literally 10 minutes a day. And you can harness your attention in a way that marketers would just cry to have, right? I mean, that's, it's just, anyway, that's just a way to inspire you to get into practicing, right? And so for all of you who are doing the practices every day, I'm so happy for you. But for all of you who feel like it's just too much to do, I say 10 minutes a day, but we never start with 10 minutes a day. We start with 1 minute. Some people start with as little as 2 to 3 breaths, right? I have one client who just texted me yesterday, and I'm not going to say her name. If she wants me to call her out some other time, I will. But she was months. She was just having such a hard time, sitting and doing the meditation. She's not the only one. I mean, she's just the most recent one, because I got a text from her yesterday, just blew my mind. But she was having such a hard time, just being able to, to sit with her attention for more than, she couldn't forget about 10 minutes. She couldn't do, 3 minutes, right? And so we just really simplified, and we said, okay, look, just in the morning, just set the intention to just sit with yourself for 2 or 3 breaths, right? Well, that was, the last time we talked about that was probably about 4 weeks ago or so, right? And just yesterday, she texted me that she did 24 minutes of meditation. And meditation that's combined with a prayer session that she does too. But 24 minutes, when a month and a half ago, tops, she couldn't spend more than 30 seconds. And now she's doing 24 minutes. So that's what I'm saying, folks. It's really like when we start slow and you have the right person to help guide you through it, it really is not. It's not a big deal. It's really very, very simple and very, very easy. And so if you would like to learn more about it, and if you'd like to talk to someone who can teach you to do this, I'm here. Okay? I am right here, and I am ready to talk to you. Just hit me up with a message, hit me up with a comment, go to my website. You can claim a free 45-minute session on my website right now. artburnscoaching.com. Literally, it's just 2-3 clicks away. All right, and that's an absolute, there's a value to that, right? There's a pretty high monetary value to that, so it's there for you. All you got to do is click. All you got to do is give it your attention and follow it, and I promise you, you will not be sorry. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Wish you well. I hope you have a great day, and I hope your attention is on the present moment, and you're paying attention in the present moment without judgment, and you're allowing yourself to accept what it is that you find within that attention, and that you allow yourself to drive with compassion and curiosity through whatever it is that you're going through today. All right, everybody. Thanks again. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.